Como ya la vi solita, pues me pregunté qué pasa cuando me bailó cerquita. Eso fue descomunal. Dale, dale, tra, tú sabes cómo es. Vamos a hacerlo, mami, contra la pared. No me dice nada y todo se le ve. El perreo no se acaba hasta las 3. Dale, dale, tra, tú sabes.
Hello my loves, and welcome back to Hi Bye Heels. My name is Ashlyn Tori if you haven't been here before, and if you have, welcome back. Today I am teaching you sensual hip action technique, and this can be applied to burlesque dancing, heels dancing, Latin dancing. This is really how to move your hips in a really sexy way and feel confident in your hip action. I know that hip action, if you've never done it before, can feel very confusing, and so I'm going to break down a few different moves to really get that sexy hip action that you want, okay? Because we all want to be able to move those hips, whether it's out at the clubs, whether it's in your dance classes, in your choreography. Our hips as women, especially as feminine beings, hold so much power and significance in so many different cultures, and so I want you to harness that power in this tutorial today. Moving my hips makes me feel really confident and makes me feel like I can do, be anything I desire. There's so much power there. We hold emotions in our hips. Hips are signs of abundance. It is just so amazing, everything that our hips represent, and so I want you to harness that energy today. I also have my sweet little puppy Aries kind of roaming around today, so if you see him, he's just chilling. I think he's chilling on a little pillow right now. He looks so cute. You don't need anything for this tutorial, just some hips. You can definitely have some heels on if you would like, and let's get right into it. So I'm going to be breaking down, like I said, a few different movements that you can do with your hips, and the first one is just going to be a basic hip circle. And essentially what I'm doing with my hips is I'm just moving my hips all the way around in a circle. Yes, circle and circle. And usually I'm doing it to one side or the other in my choreography, but we'll just focus on stable hip circles right now. So when it comes to hip circles, what's happening is my hip is going one way or the other. Usually there is a side that feels better for you. So if there's a side that feels better for you, more natural, do that. For me, it's always my left side that feels a little bit more natural to roll. My right side feels a little bit awkward. So you have a side that feels a little bit more dominant in your hip rolls. What I'm doing when I'm rolling my hips is I'm sending them to the side, I'm arching back, and I'm pulling them forward. So I'm allowing my weight to transfer onto one foot, booty goes around, and close. Transfer, booty goes around and close. What I'm doing while this is happening is I'm arching my chest forward. So not only is this like in the hips, but it's also in the chest. My chest is also moving open as my hips are going back. Yes, so there's two things happening at one time. We have my hips going around and we have my chest opening and closing. This movement, you can do it standing up, you can do it down. It's the same movement that's happening. That's why when you have the basics of moving your hips, then you're able to transfer it into other moves. So just for standing up, we're going to be taking our hips to one side, back, and around. One side, back, and around. And then you can speed it up, speed it up. Yes, and this is really just the arch of the back, closing of the rib cage. Arching, closing, arching, closing. So I'm using this open, close, action. Yes, that's just a basic hip roll. It's a basic hip chest roll that you'll use in a lot of different forms in heels and burlesque in Latin classes. So let's do it together a few times. So whichever side feels better for you, just playing with your hands. If it feels better just to like keep them on your hips right now, that feels good to you, then do that. So we'll go 5, 6, 7, and we roll, and roll, and roll, and roll. Yes, so good, my loves. Okay, so that's just a basic hip roll. And then we have a figure 8 hip roll. And a lot of times you'll see this mainly in Latin dancing, but I mean in heels as well. It's kind of a universal move at this point. So what this looks like is instead of just going around in a circle, we're actually making a figure 8, an infinity symbol with our hips. So what's happening is my hips are going diagonal around to the back, diagonal around to the back. So I'm sending my hip diagonal and then I'm pushing it back. And then I'm sending my other hip diagonal, pushing it back. So it's going to look like this. So my hips are rolling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm pushing my hip to the corner. As you can see, I'm rotating, and then I allow that booty cheek to press back. And then I rotate through to the corner, press the booty back. And obviously it's not gonna be this like stiff when you actually get the move. I just want you to be really clear about which directions your hips go. So we have push to the corner, press, push to the corner, press. And as I'm doing this, I'm rotating my body. As you can see, my body's diagonal. I'm rotating my body. I'm rotating my body. Yes, and you can even just have the hands up and practice this motion. Boom, 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 boom. Yes, so your hips are going to build flexibility as you practice these moves. Probably aren't gonna feel the most flexible in them at first, but over time, the more that you do them, you will. So again, I'm transferring weight, taking it diagonal, round it out. And then I have to transfer the weight again, transfer the weight, and around. Transfer the weight, and around. And I'm coming up on my toe. I don't know if you guys can see, but I'm coming up on my toe, up on my toe, up on my toe, up on my toe as I do this. And I'm really, again, using my rib cage. The diagonal of my hips are going. That's how my hips are rotating and my rib cage is rotating. Press, and press, and press, and press. And I'm using the lift of the heel to get even more rotation around. So I press, 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 press. Yes, and that is a figure 8 rotation. Let's do a few together. So we'll go 5, 6, 7, and 1, and 2, and 3. Amazing job. Okay, so that's our basic hip roll. We have our figure 8 hip roll. Now let's just talk about like some cheeky little hip ticks. Or in burlesque, these would be called bumps, which is essentially just ticking my hips side to side, side to side, side to side, side to side. This is such a good move because often in heels, we'll do it like this, or we'll do it facing the back like this. Yeah, so you want to get that like ticky motion into your body in order to take it into other moves, different moves. So what's happening is when I'm ticking my hips side to side, I'm bending one knee and bending the other. So just practice that first. So we bend, I'm lifting the heel, bend, lift the heel, bend, lift the heel, bend, lift the heel. When I do that, I'm sinking into the opposite hip. Yes? Hip, 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 hip. And you can just do this little switch from side to side, switch, switch. Now, all I'm doing is instead of just sending that hip straight back, I'm ticking it out to the side. So I go tick, I'm pushing it against a wall. That other knee is bending. I've still got this action right here. I still got where we just were. I'm just being a little bit forceful, boom, sending that hip like it's gonna be hitting a wall. Hit, 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 hit. Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, and you'll see Latin dancers, they're doing it like this, or like I said, heels, burlesque dancers, they might be doing it differently. It's the same action. I'm just dropping the knee, and then I'm just hitting the hip out, 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 out. Yes, all of a sudden I started doing a Latin hip twist. But you see what I mean? You can either twist it from side to side, or you can be a little bit more intense with it moving sideways. Hip, 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 hip. Yes, I'm just throwing the hip, throwing the hip, throwing the hip, throwing the hip. The only thing is that other knee is bent. That is universal. If I'm doing this hip twist, it's the same thing. I'm just bending the knee across. Twist, 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 twist. Yes, but the key is the knee and the hip going in opposition. They're like pulling away from each other. Boom, 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 boom. Yes, or tick, 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 tick. Yes, so those are two different types of variations, either a Latin hip twist or like a little bump in burlesque. And then in order to get really good, you can just practice this motion, knee bent, knee bent, knee bent, and then throwing the hip, throwing the hip, throwing the hip, or twisting the hip, twisting the hip, twisting the hip. Yes, amazing job. So now you have 3 different types of hip variations that are going to be so foundational in you learning choreography, either in heels, burlesque, or Latin. Practice these moves over and over again because, like I said, once you get them, once they're in your body, you can use them in so many different ways. So we have our basic hip roll, which is just sending the hips all the way around, going either one way or the other way. We also have our figure 8 hip motion. And we also have our hip ticks, or you can do like a hip twist for Latin dancing. I hope you babes enjoyed this video. Please give it a like below and subscribe to the channel. That way that you never miss a high vibe heels class if you did. And also, if you want more heels, burlesque, Latin classes, check out my High Vibe Heels membership below. It's such an amazing community of baddies dancing our hearts out, healing in a heel. It is so much fun, and I'm so grateful to be able to bring these classes and these tutorials to you, and to have that community as a really safe space for women empowering each other through movement. So I love you babes to the moon and back. Thank you so much for dancing with me today, and I will see you in the next class. Mwah.
Ya nos ambientamos porque esto apenas comienza. Ella me dice que nada de lo que veo acá nadie lo comprará, no está a la venta. Y yo le digo más.